We woke up to snow this morning. It doesn't normally snow in March. Not where I live anyway. Up in the high country it does, but at my elevation it's usually December, January, sometimes February. But March is springtime. A lot of strange things going on, including this big ugly tree that we've got to take down. This is day number 2 on the same job. So if you watch the video called One-Handed Chainsaw Work, One-Handed Saw Work, this is a continuation of that same monster tree. And here, let me show you a little bit about why we're taking this tree down. Here again is the base of this tree. I thumped on it and I only think there's about 5 or 6 inches of sound wood on this whole thing. And the inner section of the tree is completely rotted all the way through. So it's got to go. The client actually asked me if I would prune the tree again. And I said no. I said I'll take it down, but I will not trim it again. I've worked on this tree many, many times over the years, and it's always been kind of a disaster tree for me because I just don't feel comfortable leaving this tree in his yard. There were 14 cables in this tree, 7 of which I put in. And without those cables, this tree would have just completely self-destructed. The foliage was good. The upper branches were sound as could be. But at the base of the tree and some of the main crotches, they were just totally rotten. So we had a lot of wood to deal with. Our little wood cart there is so useful. And we had a lot of things we had to protect. He had this delicate fence all the way around, the brick pillars, and he didn't want to lose his privacy, so he had ivy growing all the way around this property. Matter of fact, this property has a name to it. It's called Ivy Gate. We took the gates down because they were just a little bit too tight, and they were kind of brittle wooden gates. Beautiful, but didn't want to damage them. Fortunately, they just lifted off of easy hinges. So we had both trucks on this job, both bucket trucks. I was working on one side, and Jorge was working on the other side. There was 4 of us on the ground, and because we were working more inside today and not as much over the road, we could get away with having 2 trucks going. We still had to be careful working 2 vehicles at the same time. Wouldn't take much for him to swing a branch and bang the one that I'm working on, but as long as you're conscious of what the other climber is doing, you can get away with it. And that was kind of a sketchy move there. He had it double tied off, but this second limb was just a little bit small, in my opinion anyway. We cut mountains of wood. And if you guys have ever worked with coast live oak, you'll know that it gums up your chain and your bar really fast. So you're constantly taking the saw down and cleaning it, and we had a cleaning solution that dissolved it, but it just gums up so bad. Even if you've got the oiler working great, it just really slows you down. Then there's the branches. They're all twisty and curvy, and they go in every which direction, so they're constantly hanging up on everything. Now the strategy here was to get all the foliage off the tree first, and as the cables loosened up and we knew they were safe, then we could cut them and get them out of the way. But I was afraid of cutting cables until we had all the weight off of it. So it was kind of a process of working around and a little bit here and a little bit there, and it went okay. The job, we still have tomorrow to go back out there. The tree is completely brushed out. At this point, there's still brush on the right-hand side that you can see, but we got that out by the end of the day. Lots and lots of wood. Wood in our area is actually a nuisance because there are burn bans throughout the Santa Clara Valley, and it's hard for us to even give away firewood. I used to sell firewood for years, but now I can't. Just nobody wants it. Once in a while I can find people up in the mountains that still burn, but I'm probably going to have 5 or 6 cords of wood out of this tree. And it is heavy wood. Another thing, because there were 14 cables up in that tree, that means there were 28 pieces of steel embedded in the tree that we had to be careful of. And you got to be real careful when you get big doubles or triples down on the ground and you're going along cutting it up into firewood and don't realize that there's a piece of steel embedded in it. I've ruined many a chain working on a job like this. So I got to a point where I didn't need my small bucket, and before I could finish everything up with just the large bucket, so I got the small bucket out of the way. And here I'm doing a little bit of the roping. It was a big ugly piece. It was hollow, but it was over the fence, so I told him I was going to let it fly all the way to the ground. But I had to miss that lower branch there too. If I would have let it swing back in, it would have taken out the fence. It wasn't really a difficult move, but you do have to think about these things. Now we're on to the last little bit of foliage up here. Sure enough, the last piece gets hung up. This was, Jorge put a wrap on it, and the wrap went a little bit too much. The branch wasn't quite heavy enough for the wrap that he put on it, so we ended up fussing with the very last piece. Oh well, they don't always go smooth.
Impatience doesn't pay.
He's telling him to just let it go all the way down because it's free. But you can see he's got to pull the rope up for it to go at all. You win some, you lose some. Fortunately, nothing got broken. We got everything down safe.
Caught up on the rope.
We do have our work cut out for us tomorrow to get the rest of this wood down. And I'll probably bring the Bobcat in and the big green truck and start hauling away loads of wood. I'm hoping I can find a neighbor up here that'll take it. And I've got a couple stills. I took that from up in the air from the small bucket, as is this one right here. And I said it was a weird day. It ended up with this rainbow over the valley. Well, thanks for watching, and please leave a comment.